those other things. Now, the American worker is recognized as being the most productive worker in the world. But if you were to look at corporate America at 8 o'clock in the morning, if they're supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock, at 1 minute till 8, you see really a helter-skelter affair going on in most offices and plants and factories. I mean, they're in a dead run to get there, you know. And they walk in all huffing and puffing, and they hustle back and get them a cup of coffee, and they scoot back to their workstation, you know. And by the time they start to work, it's 10 minutes after starting time. If you were to look in on corporate America with videotapes at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, what you would see is you would see the American worker all lined up in a three-point stance. And at 5 o'clock, man alive, do they ever get out? And, you know, now that's okay if that's what they really want to do. But it's the little things that make the big difference. My watch is 4 hours wrong. I don't have a problem with it. I can tell you that at 3 o'clock in the morning if it's 4 hours wrong. But if it's 4 minutes wrong, then I got a problem. See, if my plane is supposed to leave at 11:06 and I get there at 11:10, well, you get the picture. Because I made a deal with airlines years ago that if I wasn't there when they got ready to go, that they were just to go ahead without me. And I found out that, you know, they live up to their end of their agreement, okay? Now, this business of getting there early, I'm not necessarily advocating that, but I am saying if you would just get there 10 minutes early, casually take the necessary equipment that you need to get started, get the cup of coffee, and the moment your paycheck starts, your workday starts. At 5 o'clock, you work until 5. And then you pack up to leave. Now, that's not a heavy burden, but what will happen is if you do that, instead of being caught in the mass of people running out at 5 o'clock where your life is in danger, they talk about dangers of the freeway, the danger is getting out of the building and out of the parking lot. 10 minutes later, you can leave in peace and quiet and safety. And I'll tell you something else. The boss is looking. They really are. Do we give a little extra? It's a part of the blanket that hangs over the bed that keeps you warm. And if you don't believe that, you've never been in the service and been short-sheeted. I'll just tell you that right now. You call a girl a kitten, you score all kind of points. Call her a cat, and I don't need to tell you, you got a problem, okay? It's the little things that make a difference. Call her a vision, and man alive, you're home free. Call her a sight, and oh, brother. Well, anyhow... Now, what I've got on the screen and what you who have the set of tapes are listening to, I've got the qualities we've identified earlier as being the qualities of success. Complete success. I was so amused when the last presidential election took place and 3 outstanding candidates were talking about family values. And interestingly enough, they never were able to identify the family values. You know, they discussed back and forth. But I challenge you as you look at the card which came with your set of tapes, and then for the benefit of the live audience, the qualities we've thrown on the overhead, you look at those qualities and ask yourself, wouldn't you love to have a husband or a wife with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have kids with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have every teacher in our educational system and every administrator with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have a boss and employees with all of those qualities? Wouldn't you love to have every politician in America from Dog Catcher right on up who had every one of those qualities? Now, the reality, you see, is none of those are just family values, are just business values, are just educational values. They're all life values. Check the records. The thing that makes a person a good husband or a good wife, the qualities there will also make them a better employee or a better office holder or a better FBI agent or a better whatever it is that they do in their life. You see, these qualities are life qualities. I challenge you to locate one quality there that you would not want your child taught in school, with the possible exception of faith. But everything else, would you want your child taught those? What kind of child would you be raising? I can guarantee you it would be a magnificent child. As you probably noticed already in this series, I'm talking about a lot of things that take time. It takes time to claim the qualities. It takes time to be nice and courteous to people. It takes time to do your job. It takes a little time to get there a few minutes earlier and stay a little bit longer. But the reality is, you see, we do not have a shortage of time. Everybody in America's got exactly the same amount, 24 hours a day. What we do have is a lot of problem with our direction. Again, I refer you to the day before vacation attitude, when you got so much more done, simply because you had organized that time in an entirely different way. Now, the question is, are we really affected by what goes into our mind? Reader's Digest recently had an interesting article that pointed out that 31% of the kids in America between ages 4 and 5, if given a choice, would prefer the television set over their dad. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is frightening, to say the least. Let me ask you a question. In this live audience, how many of you have ever gone to a movie and laughed? Can I see your hands, please? How many have ever gone to a movie and cried? Now, do you really think it's because they put something in the seats? Or was it because they put something on the screen that went in your mind, that affected your thinking, that aroused you emotionally? That's what I'm talking about there. Repetition really does communicate a message. I'd like to get you to demonstrate that. Question, does what goes in your mind have any impact on your behavior? Finish this for me, if you will. Pepsi Cola hits the 12-ounce bottle. That's a drink. Coca-Cola, the pause, that I'd walk a mile for a does. It's been over 40 years since any of those commercials were used. But there were tens of thousands of impressions made of those commercials, all right? Does seeing what somebody else does affect what you do? Let me get you to do this. Empty your hands, if you will, please. Just empty your hands and put them in front of you. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, go. And then I'd like for you just to slap your hands, okay? 1, 2, 3, go. Now, go ahead, reverse the tape, play it back, and you will know that the instructions were crystal clear. I did not stutter, absolutely clear. And yet fully 90% of you paid absolutely no attention to what I said. You did exactly what I did. You see, people pay more attention to what you do than what you say. They won't believe everything you say always, but they will believe everything that you do. You can absolutely count on it. And you know, life sometimes brings some interesting challenges, interesting opportunities, I guess I should say. I heard about this fellow that was playing golf. And he was on the first tee, you know, and he stepped up and he tees that ball up and he busts that sucker about 200 yards straight and about 150 yards to the right. Well, one of the pros was riding with him, and he said, well, I just know that we're not going to be able to find out unless you go ahead. And so he teed up again, and he hit another, and they went out. And as they were putting out on the first green, they saw this cart coming down at breakneck speed, and it was another one of the assistant pros there, and he was really riding down there, and he came up to the green, and he said, who hit that horrendous slice that went all the way over? And the governor's wife was playing golf with me, and she was in the cart, we were in the wood, and it hit her right up beside the head. Now, who hit that horrendous slice? And this guy very timidly said, I did. The other assistant pro said, well, I want you to know that I've talked to the governor, and he is enormously upset. I mean, he is furious. And the guy said, well, what do you think I should do? He said, well, you should play it a little more off your left toe. Strengthen your grip. That's what you ought to do. And sometimes things come out a little different than we had thought. Okay, now, to maintain the right mental attitude, that's the key. You do it by reversing the way you get out of bed. No, I'm not talking about getting out of bed backwards, but you know the way most people get out of bed, the alarm clock, misnamed, it really is an opportunity clock. I mean, if you can hear it, that gives you an opportunity to get up and go, and if you can't hear it, that might mean you done got up and gone. And depending on what you believe, that can be very bad. That alarm clock for these people sounds off, you know, and they're going to reach over and they finally find it and they turn it off and then they slap their face and said, "Hon, is it already time to get up? Oh, it seemed like we just lay down. I'm going to go to bed earlier tonight, I guarantee you." I know, now, no, I haven't been in your home visiting. I just, you know, that's just the way a whole lot of people get up. Now, instead of doing that, let's reverse the way you get out of bed. The opportunity clock sounds off for you. You reach over and shut it off. I think that is very important. And you sit straight up on the side of your bed and you slap your hands and you say, "Oh boy, it's a great day to get up and go to work today." Now, I want you to get the picture. There you are, 2/3 asleep. Your hair is all down in your eyes. You're trying to slap your hands, and sometimes you hit it, and sometimes you're missing. And you're saying, "Oh, boy, it's a good day to get up and go to work." And, hey, friend, that ain't the way you feel at all, I'm telling you. But let me tell you something. You see, when the clock goes off, you do not decide to get up. You decided that when you set the clock. What you now decide